Fresh City Farms on Bay and Gerrard is all about delivering the best local, seasonal, organic produce here to Bay and Gerrard. We opened up the business about 5 months ago now in the middle of COVID. What it's all about is delivering a better life through food. We have an amazing team here and we have the best sustainably sourced products in the market. That's what our company is all about, delivering a better life through food. Being just around the corner from downtown Yonge, we know how important it is to eat the freshest organic products. Our farm is 25 minutes away in Downsview Park, and you know you're going to get something a little bit special here at Bay and Gerrard. Next time you're in the area, make sure to pop in and say hello to our team and try one of our freshest products in the city.
Hey y'all, I'm Rudy Blair of Rudy Blair Entertainment Media, rudyblairmedia.com, and I'm your host of Indie Fridays, the interviews with Rudy Blair, presented by Yonge-Dundas Square. Every year, Yonge-Dundas Square hosts a series of free concerts for 10 weeks in the summer, Indie Fridays, showcasing an array of performances from Canada's brightest artists. This year, Indie Fridays is going virtual for its 10th anniversary, but with a twist. Instead of live performances, I'm speaking with some of the best singer-songwriters from Toronto about themselves and the music they make, from a variety of musical genres that represent the sound of the city. Before we get started on today's interview, I want to give you an update on the Yonge-Dundas Square neighborhood. The downtown Yonge businesses are open and ready to help you with all of your needs. Whether you're looking for fresh haircuts or fresh flowers, meal kits or delicious takeout, the latest fashions or even home decor, find everything you want, all within a 10-minute walk of the heart of Toronto. Check out the link to the business map in the description below to begin your hashtag Yonge Local journey. The video you just saw is from one of those very businesses. We hope that you can show them some love the next time you're in the neighborhood or, of course, online anytime. And I want to let you in on a Toronto music secret, and it's right across the road from the square. FRIAR'S Music Museum is reopening soon. Toronto's celebrated music history is now on permanent display in the free FRIAR'S Music Museum, with curation rotated twice a year by the downtown Yonge BIA. Located in a small dedicated area on the second floor inside the Yonge-Dundas flagship Shoppers Drug Mart, the FRIAR'S Music Museum is the only museum in the city that pays homage to Toronto's unique music history. You can follow them on Facebook at FRIAR'S Music Museum for updates. Today, I'll be speaking with singer, songwriter, producer, two-time JUNO Award winner, and one of the most creative people I know, Hawksley Workman, on his new single, Just a Dream, from his upcoming album, Less Rage, More Tears.
Walkman and a BMX, we both know what happens next. Before God created sex, there was just a dream, just a dream.
Hawksley, you know, it's always a pleasure getting a chance to speak with you. I know it's been a while since you and I have talked, but I've said it a million times over when people ask me who you think are the real innovators of music, Canadian music. I always look at somebody like yourself, who I consider a genius, and B, a trendsetter, because you never follow trends. You've always done what you've wanted to do. You've always been extremely artistic through your music, and the amount of people that you've produced and helped and co-written with, I mean, my friend, you are a giant in this music industry. So to me, like I said, it's always an honor to get a chance to speak with you.
Oh man, Rudy, that's big. I'm blushing. Thank you. I mean, I'm just some guy, but I appreciate what you're saying.
It's the truth, my friend. I mean, we were just talking beforehand, you know, over 20 years you've been doing this thing, and you've been doing it the way you've wanted to. Why is it, right off the top, why is it that you've never followed trends? You've always just done what you've wanted to do?
Well, man, that is like the best question I've been asked in so long, and it's funny, I was thinking about it this morning a little bit, just that I think, well, I just got back from a run where I was listening to some Frank Zappa, and I was like, well, I've been listening to Frank Zappa since I was a teenager, and somebody on Twitter the other day said, I just started listening to Frank Zappa, and I feel like I understand Hawksley Workman more. I would say that, you know, because I was a drummer as a kid, and because, like, I was focused on following, like, musicians and musicianship, I was a jazz fan as a teenager, like, I was kind of raised where, or at least if in my own mind as a kid, I was interested in things that were truly great, and great as in, like, the greats, authentic to their core, and innovative, fundamentally innovative. Those three things sort of drove what I loved about music as a kid. Anything that I followed, anything that I fell in love with, all of my heroes, I feel like they fall into a category that and they have those three things, you know, that innovation, authenticity, and greatness. And so I feel like in a way, like we all do, we're just emulating our heroes, and I just seek to try and be a little bit great, a little bit innovative, and a little bit authentic. And I quite honestly, I feel too, like even more now than ever, I think there's a political duty to not be complicit in the great cultural dumb down, which I feel is pervasive everywhere. I feel like every time you make a decision in arts and culture and entertainment to dumb it down for the public, you are also dumbing down the choices they make when it comes time to vote, the choices they make when it comes time to buy food and other things. Like, I feel like we're all in a cultural ecosystem together, and every time you make an effort to dumb down your thing, it means that you're allowing for this dumb down to continue to happen. I feel like we're all at a crossroads right now where we're all watching the news, we can all see the way we're treating one another, and we're not operating as our best selves, I don't think, as humans anymore. And I feel like every time I make a decision, I want to make a decision that makes the culture more interesting and more innovative and more, I don't know, more buoyant, and seeks in a way to be a part of this big human ecosystem with a mind to creating something positive and innovative, and not just something that allows us to sort of stagnate. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean, but, you know, I've always said this about you. To me, I think your counterpart is Canadian hip-hop legend Chaos, and I always put the two of you sort of like together, as if you two, if there were superheroes, you two would be a team somehow. And the reason why I say that is because I consider him a genius, I consider you a genius, and I also consider the fact that you guys are like mad scientists too, that you have to, like, it's not even like, I may not feel like whatever. You have to create, because whether you sleep, whether you eat, whether you walk, whether you're watching something else, I feel like your mind is always creating new music or new art. Chaos is that way, and I feel like you're that way also.
Well, man, it's such a huge thing you're saying, and I appreciate it. I just saw Chaos interviewed by Tom Power on Q like a few weeks back about the new record he's done with Kaytranada about a Canadian hip-hop sound, and just a general feeling like whatever that Canadian sound was or is starting to kind of morph into being a more generic American sound. And I thought it was a fascinating thing that Kevin was saying, because I've been feeling that a little bit as well. And I know how hard it is to make a go of it in the music business, and in particular in the Canadian music business. And Kevin will tell you all the same stuff I'm telling you as well, that when you're an innovator at your core, sometimes the Canadian music business doesn't exactly know what to do with you, because the Canadian music business is very good at emulating American success and maybe a little bit less good at understanding how to kind of create its own thing. And I think the glory days of when we put the hip out, you know, first and foremost, or even when Kevin and I had major record deals and we were a going concern back in the early 2000s, and there was a lot of money being put into our thing. Like, I think that the Canadian music business had a little bit more autonomy, but I feel now in this sort of more globalized economy, and where records, you know, the sale of records has been centralized to the internet, and there's a handful of monopolies that kind of run that thing. I think that in Canada, we've sort of gone, well, look, we have to sound like everybody else in order to play this game, which is turned into a monolithic version of what it used to be. And I feel that, Kevin's a smart guy, and he says stuff like, I just couldn't believe some of the things he said. I found it very courageous as well, and I appreciate being, you know, thought of in the same way as that guy, because I think he and I are, like you say, fundamentally motivated by similar things. Like, at 45 years old, I'm just as competitive and just as enthusiastic about making new music. I know on my inside, I feel like a 20-year-old who's still trying to prove myself absolutely every time. And I feel that's what Kevin's doing too. Like, I feel that's why he sought out Kaytranada and is just still really, you know, he's still seeking to be a groundbreaker. And that to me is, I'm just comfortable with that kind of person, you know?
Absolutely, my friend. Look, we got to start talking about because you literally have two albums happening. You got one happening right now, and you have another one that you kind of mentioned to me before that's going to be coming out. But I'm just curious, though, because of the stage in your career right now, I'd love to ask artists this question. As everybody always talks about, the Beatles, the White Album, could be debated, their greatest album. Have you been able to create your White Album yet?
Well, I mean, I feel like I sometimes work too fast and am impatient to get records out. And I know that sometimes maybe I could linger on a record and like maybe tweak it a little bit and maybe bring it into that sort of masterpiece locale. But I think for the most part, I've made a lot of really good albums. I think I've made a few great ones. You know, I think I put about 18 records out. Treeful of Starling from 2003 still kind of feels like a real something special happened there. I think the Median Age Wasteland, the most recent one, has some pretty strong songwriting on it. But you know what? It's funny. I feel like I am priming myself to make that White Album soon. Like, we've just moved from Montreal back into Ontario again. We just bought a house where I'm going to build a new studio in the garage. And it's like that kind of like being reborn again. Every time you build a new studio, every time you move to a new city, every time you kind of give yourself a new artistic space, it's like there's a new license. Your fishing license has been stamped, and you kind of get to go back out onto the lake and start casting the lure out again. And I'm feeling very buoyant. I mean, maybe too, like the precarious nature of my work, you know, now that, you know, we used to make money in all kinds of ways in the music business. And really now for me, it's come a lot down to just being able to play live and make a living in that way. And I think I was probably a little bit too relaxed or cavalier about the fact I didn't even really think that part of the business could disappear like it has right now. But that means, you know, my competitive instinct is pretty strong. And so if I'm being kept off the road, then I feel like my resolve to go into the studio and make something wonderful is just kind of heightened right now.
I love that, my friend. Now, look, you kind of already mentioned the name, but I'm going to go back. What's the name of the latest album, and how does it represent you and your career right now?
Cool. The latest album is called Median Age Wasteland. It's a very nostalgic singer-songwriter record. I mean, as you can imagine, like the album title sort of plays a little bit on the Who's Teenage Wasteland, and obviously, like, there's a feeling when you are 45 years old in a business that sort of seeks to perpetuate itself by the sexual currency of the artist. You know, video killed the radio star, and as video killed the radio star, we, you know, as we moved into the 2000s, music became kind of a beauty contest among, you know, young people, and all of a sudden, as a 45-year-old person who's got a receding hairline, it's like, you know, where do I fit into the cultural atmosphere here? Like, if you were an alien flying by this planet, you might take a snapshot of the world and go, geez, it looks like only very attractive 18-year-olds sing down on that planet, you know? But there's a lot of us down here making music. And so I think that's where the Median Age Wasteland, this feeling of middle age, sort of this doom that sets in when you realize you're past your sexy prime and you're still kind of feeling as vital and as enthusiastic about making good music. But so it's a lot of songwriting. I made the record. I wrote the record in Montreal. I made it with Murray Lightburn from the Beers, who produced it, and he put a lot of love and tenderness into it and a lot of wonderful string arrangements. And so I think that the record is an honest and nostalgic kind of snapshot of childhood, at least my childhood in rural Canada in the 1970s and 80s, and kind of just looking back at and celebrating some of that slow, beautiful, slow stuff that happened when we were kids, that I look back now and think that the 80s look a lot more like the 1960s. And the 1980s with video games and synthesizers and Duran Duran and parachute pants, like, we thought that the future had landed, you know, but you only had to fast forward a couple more decades into the very early 2000s to realize that the internet was going to usher in a version of modernity that would make our heads all spin. So it makes the 1980s look pretty silly in a way.
Do you want to live forever? Do you want to go get high? rather sit and cry.
Very, very true. And you mentioned to me, too, you're working on another album. What's that one going to be like?
This one is a real upbeat pop rock album. There's already a single kind of floating around. Just a Dream is being played by Indie 88 in Toronto, and it's kind of getting a nice little life. I also wrote this and made this in Montreal with the really brilliant Montreal producer-songwriter named Marcus Paquin, who, you know, he's worked with the National and Arcade Fire. I even think he won a Grammy for Arcade Fire. He's just one of these guys who just has an effortless way about him. And my 2 years there in Montreal were very, very productive. And I think, too, like, if you're going to move to Montreal, it's the city of Leonard Cohen, it's the city of Mordecai Richler, it's the, you know, this is a city that does serious art. And I feel like my few years there, I really got on the ball and made some interesting stuff.
Well, I'm looking forward to hearing that. Looking forward to everything you're doing, my friend. Are you going to be doing any virtual shows on the internet?
Yes, I've created a new show called Hawksley Night in Canada. We had our third episode this past Sunday. It's I like to say that Hawksley Night in Canada is Pee-wee's Playhouse meets Tommy Hunter, and it is kind of a variety show, live show. I create video segments. I do some live playing. Honestly, when this COVID thing hit, I sat around for about 6 weeks moping and going like, what the hell am I going to do? And then I built a 3-camera television studio in the basement of my father-in-law's house here in Peterborough, Ontario, and then created this live show. And to be honest, when I was in high school, I used to have a cable access show on the local cable station, the McLean Hunter in Huntsville, Ontario.
I remember.
Is that right?
I remember.
How crazy. I feel like I love small media. I love small media, even living now in Peterborough and watching Czechs television, like watching the local hockey games, watching local news. I have a real affinity I've always been a fan of small, you know. Small media is really exciting. Anything that can look hand-built. So my little TV show called Hawksley Night in Canada is my homage to sort of small-town cable television, and it's really been I've really been feeling excited about it.
Look, man, I absolutely agree. I miss those days because you saw some of the most creative stuff before. Some people ended up becoming national stars and whatever because it was just so raw, and I absolutely miss that, my friend. Oh my God, you're gonna have me wondering and thinking all day today. That's for sure. But social media wise, man, something we didn't have 20 years ago. That's where we go to follow you. Where do we go to follow you now?
You go to @Hawksley Workman, HWKSLEY, Workman as it sounds. I spend too much time on Twitter. You can always see me there. Instagram. I know that the management looks after Facebook. I got Facebook too. I mean, I like to see Twitter, if I'm to be like gentle on my feelings about Twitter. I like to see Twitter as a 24-hour collaborative art project with me and the people who follow me, so that we get to kind of engage in an ongoing art piece together. And that's when I like to think of Twitter. Whenever I'm getting down on myself about Twitter, I think, no, it's just a great big 24-hour-a-day art piece that I'm making with these people. So it's good.
You speak the truth, my friend. Look, thank you so much for making time to speak with me. And, you know, I got big love and big mad respect for you and everything you do. Congrats on the music. And just congrats on keeping a certain type of platform that is respectful, that is so artful and absolutely amazing. Like I said, everything you do, man, I'm always like in awe because you keep it real and you keep it Canadian too at the same time. Big
Rudy,
mad respect.
Oh man, that's crazy. I appreciate your work so much, and I appreciate that you're out there, you know, making this stuff. Because honestly, like I said, I mean, we're not, you know, we're just you know, we're just here on the planet trying to make something good out of the moments that we're given. And I'm grateful that you would have this chat with me and say such kind things. So look, bless you, and thank you so much for the call.
You be safe during this time, and let's cross fingers, man. The next time we talk, it's in person.
For sure. Take care of yourself.
You too, my friend, and thanks again. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you to Hawksley Workman for appearing on Indie Fridays, the interviews with Rudy Blair, presented by Yonge-Dundas Square. Check out other upcoming interviews by following Yonge-Dundas Square on social media. Links to every Friday's interviews will be shared weekly. Next week's artist is hip-hop, R&B, gospel, and JUNO nominee Story. And if you're still looking for more of Toronto's music scene, you should check out the Downtown Yonge BIA's Play the Park series. Great music still abounds the downtown Yonge neighborhood. Play the Parks, though not in the literal parks at the moment, is streaming music on Tuesdays and Thursdays from the different businesses in the neighborhood. It's local artists performing pop-up shows in non-traditional spaces around the neighborhood. It continues to be a performance avenue for emerging Toronto artists and also introduces people to unique businesses in the community. To watch previous performances and for information on upcoming performances, go to www.downtownyonge.com and check out the event page. It's all linked in the description below. Thank you for listening to Indie Fridays, the interviews with Rudy Blair, presented by Yonge-Dundas Square. I'm your host, Rudy Blair. We'll see you on the flip side.